So we know we need police, we know we need the fire department, we know we need roads, but why do we need parks? That's a good question. That seems to be one of the biggest things people like to cut when the budget gets tight, when money gets thin. So we're going to tell you a little bit why Eugene, Oregon needs to save their parks. There's a lot of values, a lot of things that can be learned through parks, and a lot of things that we think that are everyday things that would go missing.
Eugene, Oregon has a unique lifestyle that people can't find anywhere else. It has an outdoor-loving, left-leaning town, a small-town atmosphere. Lots of running, biking, activities there as well. People can live in Eugene. People that live in Eugene, it's as much as say a mine's location. It's a college town with the University of Oregon as one of the biggest supporters and concerns of everything. The Nike Sports Club started in Eugene. Eugene is called the Track Town USA because it hosted the Olympic track and field trials more than once. Running's a way of life there. For example, the Corner Ridge is an undeveloped natural area in Eugene ridgeline system. The Corner Ridge has 99.5 acres. The Corner Ridge, there are many activities you can do like biking, hiking, canoeing, kayaking, rafting, rock climbing, sailing, skateboarding, skiing, snowshoeing, paddleboarding, summer camping, and tree climbing. Picture people, oh my bad. Eugene was settled in 1846 by Eugene F. Skinner. The mills and the farming were the main trees in Eugene in the beginning. Now the timber industry has slowed down in the 1980s. The Eugene is still a lumber and wood products center though. The Nike started in Eugene, Oregon. The former Olympian University of Oregon strike coach Bill Bowman, University runner Phil Knight established Nike in 1968. The demographics of Oregon: 85.4% of the population is white, 1.887% of the population is African American, 4.29% of the population is Asian. Psychographics are about the attitudes, aspirations, questions about activities, interests, and preferences in opinion of a group. Eugene's population is young, a 3-4 average, instead involves outdoor recreation and leisure activities. Eugene is the center of western Oregon. It is about 100 miles south of Portland, halfway between the Pacific Ocean and the Cascade Mountains and the Wilmington River Valley.
So what are some impacts that parks provide not only to Eugene, but in general to cities around the U.S. and the world? Parks are good for the economy of the city. Just being by a park can give the property value a lift. Conservative estimates say that there's about 5% increase in property value just by being by a park or green space or something like that. And Eugene has its share of Oregon's tourism industry. It's an $11.3 billion industry, 110,000 jobs created directly by tourism. And Eugene, being one of the biggest cities in Oregon, does have a big share of that. And that's a lot to lose if you cut parks out of Eugene. Eugene also has an estimated $42 million in economic benefit straight through parks and recreation, whether that's saving money from the parks and things they provide, or directly generating profit for local small businesses. Another thing is the environmental impacts. A lot of people think cities are like a concrete jungle, and a lot of them are, and it's crucial that we have those green spaces and we allow places where people can go and grow and plants can grow and wildlife habitat to be as they're supposed to be. 80% of Americans live in urban areas, so it's crucial to have those places. Parks and green spaces can filter water, provide more oxygen, lower the city's carbon footprint, And also, just in Eugene, just parks do a cooling mechanism, and that saves Eugene residents an average of $1.3 million a year combined. So, what does Eugene have to lose? Personally, if you cut parks out, this is the data of the land you'll be losing. You can see 4,000 acres of public parks and forests, over 50,000 trees. Just to give you a little estimate, 528 acres just of wetlands, so they have a vibrant parks, and there's a lot to be cut from Eugene if you lose the parks. That's just part of the persona, the ethos. And looking at it economically and strictly numbers, a huge loss of savings in rainwater treatment plants that the city doesn't have to pay for, but because the park takes that burden through filtration of soil, and you're going to lose about $13.5 million in just property value if you take away the parks. And so you're losing a total benefit of $42.4 million in total economic loss. So if you cut money, you not only cut money from the budget, but you're also going to be losing jobs. You're going to be losing $42.4 million in just what the park provides. So.
Alright, so there's three main issues in Eugene that are involved with the Parks and Rec Department, and these are some of the three biggest issues in Eugene overall. And this is all involved with Parks and Conservation Area Management. So the first one is homelessness. So homelessness is a huge issue in Eugene. It's arguably the biggest issue in the form of reduced quality of life, because quality of life isn't high in the city with a high poverty rate and a lot of homeless people everywhere. So homeless people are using the parks and the outdoor recreation areas and trails to live and to sleep, and it's making people not want to go outside and use these places. So obviously outdoor recreation is a large part of the Eugene lifestyle, so this homeless problem is really affecting this. And so the Parks and Recreation Department, specifically the Parks and Conservation Area Management Department, has got to be first in the line of duty to find out how to deal with this by either housing people or reducing the unemployment rates and the number of homeless people in the city. So obviously homeless people residing in public parks affects it, and it affects the Parks and Conservation Area Management people with quality of life, but also with litter, garbage, different visual and environmental issues, just all stem from the same issue. So the second issue is mental health and wellness. So I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with the homelessness issue, because a lot of the suicide cases in Lane County are homeless people. And so in Oregon, as a state alone, suicide rate is 40% higher than the national average, which is huge. And much of this stems from Lane County, which is where Eugene is. So mental health and wellness is a huge benefit from the programs the Parks and Rec departments implement in their various program services, everything they do. So the involvement in play, recreation, leisure services, they all help people's mental health and wellness, and the overall mental health and wellness of the city, because these places, parks, trails, outdoor, preserved places are a big popular place for people to go to mentally restore, and it really helps overall health and wellness. I know personally that's a thing that us as Parks and Conservation Area Management people do, is go to these parks and different places to help restore mentally, and just, I feel like that's a big, with this being such a big issue in our city and our state, then, this is not something you want to cut. And so the last issue, more specifically, has to do with Crater Lake National Park. So there's proposed destruction of a large amount of old growth forest outside of Crater Lake National Park for timber harvesting. It's just a huge amount. And considering Crater Lake is one of Oregon's crown jewels, it attracts 500,000 visitors each year, bringing in a huge amount of money to the state. This is not only a big money producer, but also has a really important role and key piece in the conservation of a lot of endangered wildlife species. You've got Roosevelt elk, black bears, bald eagles, and a lot more that are all iconic and threatened species. And these things need more protection, not less. And just by confining them to one restricted park and destroying everything around it, that does nothing for their conservation. So there's a proposed long-term plan to protect Crater Lake, where a 75-mile wide corridor of land would be designated as protected wilderness, therefore preventing development and extraction of resources. So we need to help protect this resource, not only for conservation purposes, but also because this is another huge place for play, recreation, leisure, touring income, and a lot more reasons. And so the parks, this land stretches into Lane County, which is the county Eugene's in. And so the Parks and Rec Department and the Parks and Conservation Area Management Department are like, they're going to be huge roles in the conservation of this land. So doing away with the Parks and Rec Department in Eugene is pretty much just going to ruin the chances of this.
All right, in conclusion, you can see that without parks, Eugene has a lot to lose. Eugene, Oregon has a unique lifestyle which you can't find anywhere else. It was once called the greatest city for the arts and outdoors. And like I said earlier, mental health is a problem, and that parks fix that problem. Also, without parks, not only affecting people's mental health, but you are affecting Eugene's revenue. If parks are cut out completely, there's a very good chance Eugene and its surrounding area will suffer. So in conclusion, we need parks, and it's always a good idea that we keep these parks.